Welcome back, it's me, Lou. I'm here for another action figure unboxing and review, and today we are featuring this. This is Transformers Kingdom War for Cybertron Trilogy Optimus Prime. And this is a figure produced by Hasbro and Takara Tomy. It belongs to the Transformer Generation line of toys. And the figure we're looking at here, it's a much smaller figure. This is classified as a core class action figure. So these action figures that are a lot smaller, I believe they're about maybe like 2.5 to 3 inches tall. These are known as core class. I believe this was a reclassification because I want to say that for many years these smaller size Transformers were under the category of Legends scale. But over the last few years that's kind of changed. So they're now known as Core Class, and we are looking at the leader of the Autobots, Optimus Prime. So this figure came out a few months ago, and I don't know, for some reason I've wanted it ever since I saw the promotional photos that were released a long time ago. But I've kind of like slowed down on my Transformers collecting over the last few years, and I already have like so many Optimus Primes, especially at the smaller scale, that I didn't really feel the need to purchase this. But I was at Target last week and I saw the Soundwave core class action figure that's in this scale. And I immediately fell in love with that figure. The Soundwave in this line is probably one of the most impressive action figures I've seen in a long time. Just because they took the Soundwave character and figure and they shrunk it down to this size, but the detail was just amazing and it looks exactly like Soundwave without any compromise. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to cave in. I'm going to buy Soundwave. And then I was like, I can't just get Soundwave. I need to get that Optimus I wanted. And, you know, since I have an Optimus and a Soundwave, I'm like, I may as well get the Megatron also. So the Soundwave was kind of my gateway drug into like jumping back into like Transformers a little bit. You know, I'm not a full-time collector in Transformers anymore, but this is a figure that's been on my radar for a while, but I couldn't pull the trigger until just recently, and I think this Optimus looks amazing, just like that Soundwave. So let's get this review started. First off, I love the package design. The artwork on the Kingdom figures, I don't know, it's been awesome. Every time I see new artwork for the figures, you know, every time, for me, it's a home run. I love how the ark's situated on top of, I want to see, what's this? I think it's Mount St. Helen. I think that's the mountain that's in the fiction. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the mountain that the ark crashes into. And we have this amazing illustration of Optimus right here. I really wish I knew the artist who produced the artwork, because I think they do an amazing job. You know, it's such a clean, iconic representation of the figure, and it's slightly modernized. And it's great how, you know, this accurately portrays the figure also. The color scheme on these packages is very eye-catching. A lot of good use of warm colors, so it really sticks out on the shelves. I love seeing for some reason I just get a kick every time I see the Takara Tomy logo on the Transformers packaging, because for the longest time you'd only see the Takara Tomy logo only on the Japanese releases, but it's cool that we're finally seeing it on the Western shores in the Hasbro packaging. On the back we have Optimus. Here he is in his cab mode, and here he is in robot mode, and he transforms in 11 steps. And knowing me, it's probably going to take like half an hour. But yeah, I'm really excited about this toy. I believe I paid $9.99 at my Target for it. It seems a little bit a lot for like a small figure, you know, paying $10 for something that's barely like, you know, 3 inches. But it's a great sculpt. The detail's amazing, and I'm very impressed with the bot mode. So, like I said, you know, with these core class figures, Hasbro's done a really good job at shrinking down the larger scale figures and giving you a really great representation of that same character in a smaller form, you know, with very little compromise. Like, if you've been collecting Transformers for a long time, you would have seen that, like, you know, for a lot of these smaller figures, not that they were crap, but, you know, either one mode would suffer. Either the robot mode would suffer or the alt mode would suffer. You know, and sometimes the transformation would be very minimal. But for you to get, like, a smaller sized figure that looks, you know, pretty much what Optimus is supposed to look like, and then it seems like 11 steps is pretty satisfying for a transformation. And then you get this pretty clean cab mode. You know, I think in the end it is worth the $10. Alright, so we have Optimus, and his instruction manual. It's kind of nuts that, you know, the figure is so small, but the instruction manual is almost like comparable to, like, you know, the instruction manuals you get for, like, the larger figures. And to be honest, I hate trying to follow these instructions. They're not always clear and concise as I'd like, and I don't know, sometimes it's just hard for me to make heads or tails of what's really going on. But I think that's part of the allure of the Transformer toys, is that some people love the puzzle aspect. For me, I'm just a big fan of robots, so I just like the robot mode. But as a kid, when I was growing up, I used to love transforming them. But now as an adult, I'm kind of just more into the character itself. You know, if it has a cool alt mode and a fun transformation, I'm all on board. But for me, the transformation and the alt mode's kind of secondary. For me, I just want a really solid robot. And in the tray, he looks awesome. The proportions look really well done. You know, he looks a little bit stocky, but at the same time, he kind of has that bulk that you'd associate with Optimus Prime. None of the proportions are, like, super deformed or out of place. His blaster looks, you know, really encapsulates the iconic look of the G1 gun. Alright, let's take these out. So we have his blaster. Looks awesome. Let's get Optimus out of here. Okay, I'm kind of stuck here. I forgot that there were these plastic ties holding him down. Let's see if I can get this out. Alright, so we have Optimus here. Alright, first impressions, this holding him in hand. The joints are surprisingly tighter than I'd expect them to be. I thought this guy would be kind of like floppy right out the box, but his joints seem pretty tight. Now, it's going to be the test of time to see how well, you know, the tolerances on these joints, if they're always going to maintain this kind of, like, stiffness and, you know, remain as tight as they are. Because with some Transformer figures over time, even if you don't handle the figures a lot, for whatever reason, I'm not sure if it's because of the plastic expanding or whatnot, but some figures are prone to just becoming, like, loose jointed over time, and, you know, things just start flopping around. Like, I have a Thrilling 30 Night Beat, and, you know, that figure, I just, like, took it out of the box, never transformed it, you know, displayed it in my shelf with all my other Transformers, and then, like, I remember, like, a year later, I went to go handle him, and then all of a sudden, all his joints, his legs and his arms, they were just so loose, and I'm like, I never played with this, I never transformed it, I don't understand why he's just so loose all of a sudden. So, I mean, that's one of the things with Transformer toys. For me, I'm always kind of, like, worried that over time that, for whatever reason, their joints are going to loosen up. This figure looks great, though. Okay, so let's take a close look at this guy. Let's get him into focus. Let's see. Let's move all this stuff aside. All right, yeah, there we go. So, detail-wise, very impressed. As you can see here, he's not short on any details. He has all these amazing panels and lines scribed into his armor and body. In some ways, it's almost like they took the normal-sized figure and like shrunk it down, you know, but very impressed. You know, it's so cool to have Optimus at this smaller scale. One thing that I was kind of obsessing over like for a few years is that I wanted a complete collection of G1 animated Decepticons and an Autobot team all at the smaller scale. And for the Decepticons, I think I've completed that set maybe like twice over across different brands, not only Hasbro, but also the third-party toys. The Autobots are a different situation. I maybe have 3/4 of the animated team from the G1 cartoon in smaller scale. But for me, it's really fun. I love having, you know, a complete collection of different scale Transformers. Like, it's awesome that I have, like, on one shelf I might have a complete collection of the entire Autobot team, but like maybe at Warrior, Deluxe, and Voyager sized figures. Then on a separate shelf, I might just have, you know, the exact same team but shrunken down, you know, in this Legends or Core Class scale. So the detail on him is amazing. The head looks exactly like you expect from Optimus. One thing I'm kind of disappointed in is that I kind of wish they would provide light piping through his head so that his eyes would glow. We've seen that with, you know, some of the older figures. I don't recall if they've ever used that feature on a smaller scale figure, but I think it would look really cool. He has his Autobot badge on his upper left shoulder. His smokestacks, they're a little bit short, but it's all right. Now for his windows here, it's kind of like a very light sky blue. It looks kind of white on the camera, but in person it's like a very light blue. On the back, there's some kibble here. Right here where his wheels are, and then I believe this might be part of the front panel of the cab. It gets in the way a little bit, and from the front it's kind of hidden a little, but you kind of do notice it from a profile view. So the back of his legs are kind of hollow. I know that bothers a lot of, you know, collectors, but, you know, it is what it is. Articulation wide, it looks like his head rotates. His arms rotate. He has a shoulder joint here, which allows for outward movement. His elbows bend, and also elbow swivel. His wrists aren't necessarily articulated. They're only articulated in terms of the transformation, so his wrists will, like, his hands will fold in, but you don't get like a swivel on it. He has, I believe, he has no waist swivel, unfortunately. His legs could kick up. They could kick out pretty high. And then his legs do bend at the knees. The one thing that I'm noticing is that it's his lower torso, like where his crotch is, every time I want to move the legs up, it takes the whole carriage with it. So you see the whole undercarriage here moves with it. But it looks like it should tab into place, because there's a tab here and a socket there, but I can't get mine to lock in properly. So I don't know if that's just a flaw in the design. Yeah, because if you look, the tab here never really fully locks into the socket. Even though it's being the... Wait, I take it back? Okay. So the tab here is actually on a hinge, which is this piece. So you push this down, and then you take this part, and you push it down until it clicks into place. So it locks it in. But unfortunately, it's not a very stiff lock. So even when you do lock it in place, which I'm trying to do right again, it's not working. Just wait. So even when you do lock it into place, sometimes when you move the legs up, it still will force this entire lower area up, unfortunately. So I kind of wish it was a little bit a tighter lock here with this tab and socket, but unfortunately it isn't. Optimus's blaster, like I said, it does a great job of this capturing the profile and shape of the original G1 weapon. It looks a little bit too long, but I don't mind. And it just plugs into his hand. Alright, so now we're going to get to the part I dread, transforming this on camera. So let's take a look at the instructions real quick. Okay, so first thing, remove his gun. That's done. Fold his head forward. Alright, we did that. Fold his hands in. Alright, we did that. So we're going to cover this top socket up here with this red panel. Goes over. Next we're going to... Alright, so I take it back. He doesn't have a waist swivel, but he does have a swivel at the chest. So he could seem like, in terms of posing, he could get some more poses out of this, rotating him at the chest. So we're going to twist him at the chest. We're going to clasp his legs together. So these two tabs here and here are going to lock into the sockets here. So we're going to clasp his legs together like so. Then it looks like we're going to pull this back. His arms are going to drape down. And then the front panel here with the wheels, this is going to be the front of the cab. This is going to fold up like this and lock into place, so we have the front of the cab. And the arms, I'm really digging this. This feels like old school Optimus. You fold the arms in, fold them back, and then you rotate the forearms. And I love that part of the transformation because it feels like an Optimus transformation. Like if you've transformed the original G1 toy, you know, this is pretty much almost identical in terms of the arm movement. So we get that. And then it says here you want to push the legs up until they click. Okay, so if you look underneath the forearms, there's a small socket right there. And then there's a tab right here. And then you're going to tab the legs in. And then, let me see if I can get this right. Alright, one arm isn't... I'm trying to get the arms to align correctly. One's a little bit off. Okay, there we go. Alright, it's not perfect, but it's close enough. And then you can mount the gun either on the back. There's a socket there, and then the tab here. So you can either mount the gun facing back, like this. And then on the instructions, it shows that you can even clip the gun on the side. I don't know how you do that. Oh, okay. So there's a socket up here, and then a tab here, and you can clip the gun like that. So yeah, very, very cool figure. And let's get him transformed back real quick. Let's see if I can handle that without any problems. Alright, so if I remember correctly, this folds down. How do I do that? Or does this come down? Right, this goes down, up. And there we go. We have Optimus Prime back in his robot mode. And let's get his gun in place. And yeah, color me impressed. This is a great figure. So here he is in his robot mode. Didn't take too long. Alright, so let's talk numbers here. If I had to rate this guy numerically, wow. Okay, so in terms of his appearance, I might break it up. Okay, in terms of his appearance, this guy for me is an easy 8. 8 to a low 9. From the front, it looks like Optimus Prime. Proportion-wise, I think it's perfect. He's bulky where he needs to be bulky. His limbs are, they're decent length. It's not like he's too squat looking. He has those really heroic proportions with the larger chest. Try and get his gun in. So from a looks perspective, he looks like what he's supposed to look like. I think my only issue is that when you look at him from the back and from the side, you kind of see that extra kibble here. But it's not that bothersome to me. In terms of his transformation, I'd probably give it an easy 7. It's a smaller scale figure, so the transformation I think is very satisfying for the size, especially like the final steps where you fold the arms in, because that's very much like the G1 toy. Articulation wise, the guy's an easy 8. He moves where he's supposed to move. I just have an issue with this. I kind of wish that his lower torso would snap in better and lock into place, because like I said, even though I locked it into place, like right here, right, take a look at the tab, it locks into place. Every time I want to kick the figure up, it moves the whole thing. So that could be fixed, I guess, but it's a great figure. Really impressed. Is this something you need in your collection? If you don't collect the smaller core or legend scale figures, I think it's an easy pass, unless you're just a fan of collecting all things Optimus Prime. Like, I know there's some fans out there that, that's all they collect. They just collect Optimus Prime. They're not concerned about completing an entire wave or line of figures. They just want, every iteration of Optimus that comes out. So if you're one of those kind of collectors, definitely you need this. If you're really big into the legend scale figures, and if you collect some like the third-party stuff like DX9 or Iron Factory, I think this is a great purchase. Just because some of the third-party non-licensed Transformer figures at this scale, these, like for example, I think like an Iron Factory figure at this scale could easily go for like $30 or $40. But the fact that you're getting an officially licensed Hasbro product for $10 and it looks awesome, it's a steal. So since we're on the subject of smaller scaled Transformers, especially Optimus Prime, let's take a look at some of the other ones in my collection. Okay, we have this guy. We have this guy here. And I'll go over some of these too. I'm like, if you're not familiar with some of these figures, I'll let you know which is which to the best of my knowledge. My memory's kind of bad, so I might forget what brand some of these third-party figures are. All right, so we have 2 Optimuses up here. We have a third-party guy right here. We have another third-party Optimus. This one's great. I love this one a lot. We have a reuse of the Optimus mold. We have a Nemesis Prime right here. We have a War for Cybertron Optimus. This is a Kabaya Toys. Third-party chibi scaled Optimus. I believe this is Mastermade Mastermade. That's the toy brand. We have over here one of the older Hasbro Legend scaled Optimuses, and this was a pretty popular one back in the day. And then we have the Heroes of Cybertron Optimus. Okay, so let's talk about some of these figures here. Alright, so this is the one we just reviewed. This is the most recent, smaller scaled Optimus. It's a core class figure. This is War for Cybertron Kingdom. And next to it we have the Thrilling 30 Legend scaled Optimus. And this one came with a small little roller figure also, but that's somewhere on one of my shelves. I don't know where it's at right now. Next to it, we have the Japanese equivalent of this figure. This is from Takara Tomy. And their Legends figures, especially from this line, these are great. These had a lot more premium paint jobs. You know, it doesn't look as plasticky as this one does. It's a much richer, deeper, reflective red. And over here we have Nemesis Prime. Now, I don't remember if this was an exclusive or if this was like a mainline release. Over here we have, this is a third-party Optimus. I found this on eBay. I forgot what company made it. It's essentially like a Target Master. This guy doesn't transform into a cab. He transforms into like a gun. This company also made, I believe, a third-party Starscream and maybe a Megatron at this size. This is a beautiful figure right here. This is not an official product. This is a third-party Optimus made by, I want to say DX9. And I love this figure. It looks great. I believe this figure costed kind of a pretty penny. Maybe this guy might have ran for like 40 bucks. Anywhere between 30 to 40 bucks, I think. But it's an awesome figure. It looks really solid. You look at it from a distance, it looks premium, even though it's like a third-party product. It's a great figure. This is a Kabaya Toys Optimus. So this is one of those action figures that you have to put together yourself. I bought this at my local Japanese mall in the grocery section, and a Kabaya figures, it's usually you buy like a box of candy, and it's kind of weird in Japan. This is a big thing in Japan. They sell candy in boxes, and in the boxes there might be like a small little toy or model kit. You know, there might be like Pokemon themed candy that comes with like a Pokemon. There might be like a Godzilla candy that comes with like a Godzilla monster or some other kaiju. I've seen Power Rangers, I've seen Gundam, and this was like the Transformers. There's a candy, I forgot what it was. I don't remember if I ate the candy, but it came with this Optimus little model kit that you had to put together and put the stickers on. It's very hollow, it's very cheap looking, but the fact that you're getting this cool little model kit with, like, you know, a box of gum is pretty cool. So this is a Kabaya toy. I believe that's what it's called. This is a third-party Optimus. It's made by Mastermade, and it came with their third-party Metroplex, I think. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I believe that's what it came with. And this one doesn't transform. It's just, you know, very limited. I think maybe like a couple of points of articulation. This is the Hasbro Legend Scale Optimus. This was popular for a long time because it looked like what it was supposed to look like. As you can see, in terms of action figure engineering, Hasbro's come a long way in the last like 15 years. This figure is pretty old. Let's see if I can find a date on this. I believe this figure came out around the time of maybe Transformers, the third movie, Dark of the Moon. And I think this was part of the Reveal the Shield line. because he has the heat rub sensitive sticker over here, where if you rub it, it shows this faction, and it's kind of faint, but you can see the Autobot emblem. You know, if he's a Decepticon emblem's revealed. This guy had a pretty simple transformation also. It's very similar to this guy, but... and it's funny, this guy's a much cheaper looking figure, but I think his alt mode actually looks better than that one. You know, it's a little bit more solid. So this was a pretty popular figure when it came out back in the day. Just because it was G1 Optimus, it was a smaller scale, and he kind of looked like what he was supposed to look like. But as you can see, there's a lot of compromise going on in terms of his proportions and the detail and the arms. It just looks kind of weird. But for what it was back then, it's pretty cool. And I still like this figure a lot. And over here we have the Heroes of Cybertron Optimus. Now, a lot of Transformer fans hate Transformer figures that don't transform. But I don't remember anyone really hating on this line of action figures. This was something you could buy at Walgreens back in the day. And I want to say maybe they were like $4 to $6. And they were cool. I mean, you look at them, they're just pretty much just like, you know, the small display toys. The articulation is very limited. It's like almost like a small statue. And one of the gimmicks with these figures is that you could like remove their arms and limbs and swap them out. So if you wanted to give this guy Starscream's arms, you could, for whatever reason. But yeah, I don't remember people really hating on this line of toys. And this guy's pretty cool because his eyes feature light piping. So if you look back in the back of his head, it's actually a clear plastic. So as soon as light shoots through the back of his head, his eyes will glow. But it's kind of hard to recreate that under my camera. So yeah, here's a bunch of just different smaller scaled Optimuses. It's just kind of crazy in terms of like, you know, how much it's progressed over time. Like for a long time, you know, this was a really popular Optimus. This is based more off his, this design isn't really G1. This is more so his comic book appearance in the IDW comics. And this figure was great. The only problem with this figure is that his head wouldn't lock in. So over time, his head would just like droop. It would just like fall forward because there's no tab that would hold this upper plate in place. And as much as I love this figure, I think I was at like BotCon or like TFCon, one of the Transformer conventions, and one of the dealers had the Takara one. And then I remember seeing this, and I'm like, I need to have this toy, just because it's the exact same figure as this one, but the paint finish is just amazing. You know, all the colors are a lot more metallic. They're a lot more richer and deeper. It really makes this figure feel premium, even though it's a smaller toy. And then, as you can see here, like over time, for whatever reason, you know, the limbs just get loose. You know, it's not as tight or snug as it used to be. And then, you know, with most Optimus molds, Hasbro and Takara, they always double dip, and then they'll always give us the eventual Nemesis Prime repaint. So here's Nemesis Prime, exact same mold as this guy. So yeah, if you're an Optimus fan, you're not short of like Optimus action figures. There's so many Optimus action figures out there. They're all great. They're all wonderful. Oh man, so let's wrap this video up. You know, if you are new to my channel, welcome. If you are a returning subscriber or viewer, thank you so much for your continued likes, comments, and support. I greatly appreciate it. I'm a big fan of just toys and action figures in general. I kind of regret that I kind of fallen out of Transformers over the last few years, but, you know, the hobby is so expensive to begin with, and at a certain point, you know, you just kind of have to pick and choose what you want and what you need, and, you know, there's some stuff that kind of pulls me back eventually, like this Optimus and the Soundwave from this toy line, because I think they're great figures, especially since a little bit smaller, somewhat affordable at $9, and I think the quality level is really high on this, so it was easy for me to get pulled back in just because of this guy. So until my next video, be safe, take care of yourselves, and most importantly, be happy. And I'll talk to you at the next one. All right, later.